Oh, that's the wrong scene. That is entirely the wrong scene. That's the wrestling scene. We're not talking about wrestling this morning. There we go. How dope is that, man? That actually just made me smile. That in itself just made me smile. So yeah, my name is Steve Smith. You are watching the Voice Britannia Twitch stream live today. It is Wednesday. It is the 24th of February 2021. Whatever way you want to say it. It's entirely up to you. Dates, how you say them, it's all relative. I mean, it's all bullshit anyway. Let's kill the music for just now, because we do not need music for just now. We don't need background music. What you need is me chatting. So yeah. It is what time is it? Why am I hearing the hiss today? Let's get rid of the rando hisses. So yeah, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I am here for half hour, 45 minutes of potpourri. Now, you might be wondering what's potpourri. This is my little space. This is my little space within what I do within streaming. Like, I used to talk about politics all the time. We used to talk about current affairs all the time. But I just don't talk about politics and current affairs much at the moment. Maybe to my own detriment. Right, how's it going, my man? Good to see you in the chat. So yeah, so today I'm going to do an episode of potpourri, because I want to do these every week, but I've been slipping on them. And today, what I thought we'd look at is the various COVID-19 roadmaps, because this is pertinent to all our lives, you know. Like, we're all, if you're in the UK, which you most likely are, but I know there's people from outside the UK watch this as well, but you're probably in the same sort of situation, you know what I mean? Most of the modern world at the moment is in the situation where we're in lockdown, you know. It's pretty shit. It's pretty shit being in lockdown. It's pretty shit having society locked down, but them's the breaks, you know what I mean? We can't really do much about that. We've got to deal with it, or mass deaths happen. So we're in a strange situation when it comes to that just now. So it's always good to know what the hell the various governments of the country / world / continents of this planet are doing to try and get us out of lockdown, because the sooner it's done, the better. None of us like being in this situation, and we all want out of this situation. So today, the UK government and the Scottish government have, well, not today, it was actually over the last few days, the Scottish government, the UK government, and probably the Welsh and Irish governments, Northern Irish should I say, have all published their road maps. Now, as I am in Scotland, the only two road maps that really matter to me personally are the UK government's one, because I stay on the Isle of the UK, whether I like it or not, so they matter. We're connected to England, these matter. And also the Scots one, because that's the one that legally matters to me. I mean, I like talking about the UK ones as well, because UK politics is something I've followed and spoke about for years. I probably know more and can talk more conveniently or more confidently about UK politics than I can Scottish politics. That is a fact. I really don't know that much about Scottish politics, which is fucking terrible considering I'm Scottish and I'm a bit of a political nerd. You know what I mean? I can't even say the word there. God damn it to hell. And yeah, if you're in the chat just now, if anyone joins in, tell me your best political joke. I feel like shit just now. Things are getting on top of me, and my back has just been on fire for the last 2 weeks. It's just insane. I need cheered up. So yeah, look, it says up there. Where is it? Where's my finger gone? Yeah, there, up there, above white. It'll say, make me laugh. Tell me a joke. Make me laugh. If you can make me laugh on stream, then I'll send you a sticker. I mean it. I've got stickers. Fucking tons of stickers. I was going to try and not swear in the stream as well, but that's finished. But yeah, this folder is like full of stickers, old Voice Britannia stickers that, like, I want to. They need a home. These stickers, they need homes. So like, what I'm going to start doing is, I'm going to start trying to give these away on stream now. This will probably lead to me losing my ass on stamps, but I don't care, because if it spreads the word, it spreads the word. So You can make me laugh, I'll send you a sticker. How does that sound? And if, I just have to send myself a sticker. I just made myself laugh and I didn't even tell a joke. Like, this is a sign of insanity, people. I may be going insane. This may be a good thing. If I go insane, I mean, I can only see an upside from a lapse in mental cognificence. Is that even a word? I'm going full Boris today. I'm just going to start inventing words. I needed to create a word to describe it. What I mentorated. Words. I love words. They're fucking great. So, let's get into this. Let's have a look at these road maps. Let's read the road maps. Let's have a look at the road maps and let's chat about them. Let's see if these are road maps or brick walls, and let's see how many pitfalls they have built into their road maps. Because, you know, they can't just build a road map that will work. The UK government can only create things that have loopholes in them. They can only, it's like, they are like the equivalent of the people that make Swiss cheese. They can only make things that have got holes in them. They're just terrible. So I'm expecting these to be just garbage. But we're going to see. Has anyone... So, wait, what are you saying? Has anyone came out backing their position on schools? Come on, man. No, I mean... Well, actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure the opposition are backing the government on schools and more or less everything. Like, I'm trying to write a blog about this at the moment. My political brain is just fucking fried at the moment. Like, I am numb. It's like I have become totally numb to politics because there's just... The wave of bullshit that has been coming from government on all sides of the borders over the last year it has finally become too much to fight. Like, I can't hold it back. It's like insane. It's overwhelming me, like how much bullshit there is out there and how much people are going with it and how much people are fighting for the wrong things. It frazzled me. It's frazzled me. So I really don't know what anyone's position is on anything. And this works out kind of well for Prime Minister's questions, because now I'm looking at Prime Minister's questions more like it's a wrestling show than a politics show. And with that, it makes it all a lot more fun. But no, I've got no idea what position anyone's is. If it's Labour, the opposition, the official opposition, you know, the people that are supposed to oppose government, they will be supporting them. So that's just the way it is now. We don't have opposition, we've got supporters. We've got a government and their supporters, who used to be called the opposition. So, let's have a look at the press release from the UK government. Because if you want to get the information, this is the way to get it. You go to the government's website and you read the words published by government on the page. Now, of course, they'll always change what's said here. They will always change what they say here. They will do stuff to it. Downing Street, the Prime Minister and everything attached to it are, you must remember this is important, they are all full of shit, right? They are all full of shit. They lie, and they will just change what their lie says to make it fit the narrative at the time. This is just what they were. What's that like saying? Yeah, it feels like a total swamp. I understand. I don't understand how on earth it would make sense to open schools so early, but on the other hand, no one seems to give a shit in the press. You are right, and this is actually something we're going to get to in a little minute. When I say a little minute, we're going to get to that within the next half hour. It is on my haphazard list of things I'm going to speak to. So let's get into this roadmap. Press release. Prime Minister sets out roadmap to cautiously ease lockdown restrictions. PM Boris Johnson has announced the government's roadmap to cautiously ease lockdown restrictions in England. Okay, so this was published by government on the 22nd of February, 2 days ago. So let's start it. What we'll do is, let's just read the bullet points, because at the end of the day, this is all that really matters. I mean, we could read these little bits in the between, but they're just bump. They're there to punctuate what is being said. So let's start the first set of bullet points. Government publishes a full 4-step roadmap to ease restrictions across England and provide a route back to a more normal way of life. Each step is to be assessed against 4 tests before restrictions ease, starting with the return of schools on the 8th of March. Under a month away, they're going, oh fuck, that's really bad. So we've got under a month till the schools in England are going back. Hey. So we're going to have so this may, to start with, right, Government in England are saying they're wanting, I think it's the 21st of May or something like that. And if you look at this, they're returning schools on the 8th of March. That's under a month away. We're still way over 5,000 new cases a day. It stands to reason that if this is the case, that like over 5,000 cases a day plus all schools going back is not just the same as what happened in autumn, it is worse. And I can only see this meaning that it won't be the easing of restrictions in May, it'll be lockdown 4 in May. That'll be what happened. Like, the PM is clear that decisions on each stage will be based on data, not dates. He just can't help himself, can he? He's got to use alliterations and all that stupid little grammatical devices that the posh think are just the way to just talk as idiots. Government will move cautiously to keep infection rates under control. Okay, so let's look at the 4 tests. This is the UK government's 4 tests. The assessment will be based on 4 tests. The vaccine deployment programme continues successfully. Is that a test? Like, wait. Right, so this is supposed to be... These are 4 tests, right? The vaccine deployment programme continues successfully. How is that a test? How can you work out if that's a boost? That is an absolute bullshit statement. Like, what is continuing successfully? The vaccine, that's just a statement. That is not a test. So, evidence shows vaccines are sufficiently effective in reducing hospitalizations and deaths in those vaccinated. So that's more of a test. But again, what's that got to do with that? Are that two not linked as one test? Like, does the evidence showing vaccines are sufficiently effective in reducing hospitalizations and death in those vaccines are not directly part of the vaccination deployment program? Like, they're the same thing. Infection rates do not risk a surge in hospitalisation, which would put unsustainable pressure on the NHS. So, what that means is that people are still getting the cases. The virus is still absolutely spreading around the country, but it's not causing a big surge like we've seen in the last few months. Our assessment of risks is not fundamentally changed by the new variants of concern. So, right, this is supposed to be 4 tests. Right, it says there, this assessment will be based on 4 tests. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are not tests. Like, our assessment of the risks is not fundamentally changed by the new variant of concern. That is a statement of intent. That is not a test. Infection rates do not risk a surge of hospitalizations. Yeah, that is a test. But again, like that and that, right? So out of their 4 tests, we have found 2 actual things we can call a test here. And within them, they're retroactive tests. You can't know the answers to these things until they happen. So that means you can't know the answers for these 2 tests until it's too late. You cannot know that the infection rates are going to be too high to risk a surge of hospitalizations until they start coming in. And evidence shows vaccines are sufficient in reducing hospitalizations. Again, you don't know that until after. You don't know the... And I don't mean that, like, it's not they're not yes-no answers. I think that's what I'm getting at. It takes time to get the answers for these 2 things, like weeks, because you need to wait for data and deaths, who's got the vaccines, illness levels, all sorts of weird little bits that us plebs that are outside of the medical profession just will never think of. It's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. So out of the UK government's 4 tests, we have identified 2 tests and 2 statements. Let us read on. There will be a minimum of 5 weeks between each steps. 4 weeks for the data to reflect changes on restrictions. See, look, there we go. They actually say it right there. 4 weeks to data to reflect changes. That's for that, right? So it takes on average about... They're saying there, they're telling us here that it takes 4 weeks to get the information they need to know if a test's passed or fucking failed. We can't just look at stuff like new cases. We can't just say, oh, right, 10,000 new cases a day, fail. Test has been failed. Like, that's a lot of people still getting the disease. Fail. We're like, oh, look at the deaths. Deaths are above 500 a day. Fail. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, look, there's the city of Aberdeen. How many people in the city of Aberdeen have the virus just now? Oh, half the city fail. This is like, I don't understand. I mean, yeah, I know this is like science and stuff like that, and this goes over my head and it goes into modelling and stuff, but their forecasts are just stupid. Like, so let's read on. So if I keep reading the same things and getting annoyed, we'll never move on. The Chief Medical Officer and Chief Scientific Advisor have made it clear that this will give adequate time to assess the impact of each stage and reduce the risk of having to reimpose restrictions at a later date. Now, quick question to anyone. Does anyone here, or in the future, will anyone listen to this, actually ever trust the Chief Medical Officer and the Chief Scientific Advisor going forward? Because I know I won't. And what made me think this the other day was looking at a gin bottle, and it says on the side, you read at the side of the gin, it's like, oh yeah, this bottle of gin contains this much units. The Chief Medical Officer says you can have this much in a week. And I put it down, I was like, oh. So, Chris Whitty, or Valence, whatever one it was, one's the science, one's the medical, is telling me that the man that has been wrong about everything about the coronavirus so far is telling me that it's safe to drink this much a week and I won't get ill. I actually don't believe that now. I do not believe Chief Medical Officer warnings now. Like, how can we? I cannot trust the UK government's advisors because they have lied to us for over a year now. They have not only, like, at times they've lied, at times they've been flexible with the truth, let's say. They've been lenient with the truth. And at other times they've just told us what government wanted us to hear. And that is, I don't see how we can trust people like that in the future, because they will just do what they've told us the whole time that they're following the science, but it's been very, very fucking obvious that they've been following the politics. I mean, if we look at this bit here is absolute politics. Like, the medical profession would rather that we wiped the disease out, go for the zero COVID target. Other countries are doing it. Australia's doing it. New Zealand's doing it. Like, Australia's a vastly bigger country than the UK. Other countries are trying it, but we're not. We're just going to let it do like that because our government, like they have said from the start, have been adhering to a policy of herd immunity. They are happy for people to get the virus. They are happy to die. They were happy for my grandfather to catch the virus just last week. Now, here's a story that blew my fucking mind. Something from my personal life, right? So my granddad, bless his soul, he's getting a bit senile in the head. It happens to all of us, you know what I mean? We all start going a bit in the end. And after my grandma passed last year, it's a bit hard for him. Like, bless him, my granddad's really nice. I mean, he's been having issues with his head for a few years now. And for the last few years, his main focus was like my grandma, looking after my grandma. And he always was like, I need to look after my grandma, I'm worried. But it came past it was actually my grandma that was looking after him. Like, people, like, they thought my grandma was the one that was more ill. They thought she was senile. But it actually said, like, turned out if you actually sat with him for a bit, you could tell that it wasn't my grandma that was the iller one. It was my granda. Now, my grandma passed away. My granda's now, he's just getting a bit on, you know what I mean? It's so, he's moving into like a nursing home. Which, quite frankly, I think is, you're better to get the care when you're getting on a bit rather than sitting on your own and the worst happening and you're left on your own. And it's also a real burden on everyone around us. So it's cool, you know what I mean? This is what we pay our taxes for. We pay our taxes for systems to be there when we get on a bit, so the system can help us when we get old. And I digress. So he went into this home. The first 2 weeks he had to go in on quarantine. So you had a 2-week quarantine, right? Within the 2-week quarantine, he caught COVID in the nursing home. Now, it turns out they said that he caught COVID off someone that's not in the nursing home, but quite frankly, the way I see it, he was in, like, the isolation for the first week, got off fine, was getting tested all the time, didn't have the virus, and then all of a sudden, after 1 week in a nursing home, he caught it. Which just blows me away, and it just shows you, like, how little is being done to protect the elderly in this. Now, the only saving grace in this story about my grandfather is that he had the first jab of the vaccine, right? If he hadn't had the first jab, he would have probably died, like, because he's really old. Now, thankfully, he got his jab, so the only real side effects he's had of coronavirus has been the delusion, and it's been delusion and stuff like that, which is funny. What the parent, my mum and that, was told by the doctors is that if you're older and like you've got like dementia and stuff like that, and you get the jab, you're more likely, like, COVID manifests itself with like more mental issues, like delusions and stuff like that. So he went through a bit of that, which obviously can't be nice, but at least he didn't get the bad side of it. I would have rather he didn't call it at all. I would have rather that people got both vaccinations and where people were being protected. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there, because we're talking about the government trying to protect people, but they're not. And this is in Scotland as well. It's people are not being protected. They're not being protected properly. So, back to this. We'll read a little bit more of this when then we need to get on, because we've got some more stuff to read here. So, as the Prime Minister said, getting children back to school has been the top priority, and so from the 8th of March, all children and students will return to face education in schools and colleges. By this point, everyone, I love eating blue Play-Doh. Thanks for that. I needed that. I totally lost my train of thought there. By this point, everyone in the top 4 vaccine priority cohorts, as determined by the independent... Like, okay, what is the JCVI? Fuck off. So, right. As determined by the independent JCVI, independent joint committee. It's a government committee. It's made by politicians. It's a political fucking committee. And see what annoys me? The vaccine committee. It's like headed by the guy that half owns YouGov. It's headed by one of the government's main propagandists. You can't trust it. Like, so let's try and get this, because I'm just wavering on and telling stories about my own life here. So, also from this, like, let's get back down here. So, the subsequent steps are as follows. So, here's more of the roadmap. The roadmap for getting England out of the houses and back out of lockdown. As part of step 1, there will be a further limited change. From the 29th of March, the week in which most schools will break for Easter, that's going to be a terrible week. Outdoor gatherings of either 6 or 2... Fucking hell. So, by the 29th of March, UK government are letting 6 people from 2 households allowed to meet outside, including private gardens. Outdoor sports facilities such as tennis and basketball courts will be able to reopen. People can take part in formally organised outdoor sports. At this point, the stay-at-home order will end, although many lockdown restrictions will remain. That's Super Saturday all over again, isn't it? Right? Who remembers Super Saturday from last year when they opened all the pubs in the middle of the first wave? So, our government are idiots. Like, so they're putting the schools back at the start of March, right? Let's just take a step back here, right? UK government are putting schools back at the start of March. Now, we know from the end of the second lockdown and the start of the third, that which all happened at the end of the summer holidays into the Easter autumn, that when you put the kids back to school, infection rates spike, infection rates jump. So by the 29th of March, we are guaranteed to see a spike in COVID-19 rates in England, right? And then, so we're going to have 4 weeks of cases rising and rising and rising with kids at school, kids mixing, going to school, home from school, back to school, friends' houses, meeting outside, all that sort of shit. And then we're going to get the Easter holidays, and then everyone's going to be allowed to... 6 people from our 2 households will be allowed to mix. Mass mixing. The stay-at-home order will end. People will be allowed to go and play sports. This is... Then no earlier, the shops open from the 12th of April. I do not think we will get to the 12th of April without there being a massive spike in COVID cases, because it's like they've... Like, let's get Worldometer up. Worldometer, coronavirus UK. I want to look at something very quickly here. Here we go. New cases, right? Now, this is the first wave. This is the second wave, and this is the third wave. Right now, to be fair, I would class this as all the second wave. Like, this is just part of the second wave. This is all part of the second wave. It's a bumpy wave. It's like a sawtooth, but this is all definitely the same wave, right? Now, as you can see from the first wave, we almost got rid of it. Like, we nearly got rid of COVID-19, and then over the summer, like this bit here, July, August, this is your summer holidays, right? So this is when kids were all off school, and there was quite a lot of restrictions. People could maybe mix a little bit, 2 households and stuff, and that was that. So over the summer holidays, obviously, it progressed. Now, round about here, this is where the summer holidays ends. Now, conveniently, this is where the April summer holidays end. You know what I mean? This is when kids got stopped from going to school and got sent home. And this is when the summer holidays ended, and this is what started. Like, as soon as you can see it, it's not even funny how blatant this correlation is. As soon as this happened, no, it's like White said in the chat, it cannot be denied. It's like, this is where the schools opened. It went fucking through the roof. Then we got down to here, midterm, it got a little sinks a little bit, then it got fucking through the roof thing, and everyone's got sent. It's just insane how blatant it is. That it's like the biggest correlation. Like, I find it hard to argue this I think it's a no-brainer. It's like, right, kids get the virus too. The virus doesn't understand what a child is. This whole notion that, kids are less risk, it's like, fuck off. It's not true. Kids will not die from it. They can still catch it. And even if they don't show symptoms, they can still have the virus and spread it. They can still go to school. Like, a kid can be going to school asymptomatic, can give it to 10 other kids in their class, then they all go home to their families, then they all start mixing with other people. This is how it spreads, and the government just doesn't seem to understand that. I forgot kind of the point I was on there, but it's just fucking stupid. It's like, and here we go, like, the UK government are saying that no earlier than the 12th of April, non-essential shops and stuff will open, blah, 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 all this stuff. Then the 17th of May, everything gets... I'm not even going to read that or that. Like, I don't think there's any point. I do not think England is going to get to the 17th of May and see this. No fucking way. I would place money on this date changing. Because it's like, there's going to be 2 months, right, from the schools opening to that. And between the schools opening and that, we've got holidays, we've got restrictions being dialed back. From the 12th of April, hospitality venues can start going back. Like, pubs. So yeah, this is what I can lift from the UK government's roadmap. It is fucking terrible. They're just rushing into things again. Like, it's almost like they have looked at every mistake they made in the first 2 lockdowns and thought, right, how can we make the same mistake again? And they deliberately went out and made the same mistakes. It is bloody absurd. It is absolutely absurd. So let's look at the Scots government's one quickly, because I'm actually running right out of time. I did not think it would take this long to look at these sorts of things. Now, Scotland's phased and careful approach to easing lockdown restrictions while continuing to suppress COVID-19 has been outlined by the First Minister. The immediate priority will continue to be the phased return of education, building on the return of some pupils to school yesterday. What? On that basis, the progress in suppressing the virus and vaccinating key groups remains on track. Restrictions would be eased in the following order. Now, I should caveat this with saying that cases in Scotland are massively lower than England. Like, to massive levels. Scotland has a lot less people than England. England has like 60 million people. Scotland only has around 5 million people. So we've got to remember that our cases are a lot lower, and we've had a lot stricter restrictions. So things are happening faster in some ways, but they're going to be slower in others. So the immediate priority will continue to be the phase. Yeah, we reached that bit. So here we go. The bullet points from the Scottish Government. The next phase of the school returns with the rest of the primary school years, P4 to 7, and more senior phase secondary schools back in the classroom for part of their learning and limit on outdoor mixing between households increasing to... Man, that was a terribly written thing. They've written it all with like no... They don't even have a full stop in it. Thanks for helping us dyslexic out. Come on. Is a full stop really too much to ask? Come on, Scott. Let me try and read that again. The next phase of the school returns with the rest of the primary school years, P47, and more senior phase secondary pupils back in the classroom for part of their learning, and the limit on outdoor mixing between... That's a terrible fucking sentence. The stay-at-home restriction will be lifted, and any final school returns to take place. Communal worship to restart in limited numbers, mindful of timings of major religious festivals. This phase would also see reopening of retail, starting with an extension of the definition of essential retail and removal of restrictions. SK, my man, how is it going, dude? I hope you are doing fine today. Return to levels of approach, with all of Scotland moving to at least level 3 with some possible adjustments. This could mean that from the last week of April that we would expect to see some phased but significant reopening of the economy, including non-essential retail, hospitality services like gyms and hairdressers. There is likely to be a gap of at least 3 weeks between the easing of restrictions to us. See, this is good. So they're going to put a 3-week buffer between easing restrictions and assessing the impact of further restrictions. That makes sense. Ongoing financial support, but of course you can only give so much financial support if the UK government gives it. I mean, in general, there's nothing really that much different. There's nothing that much different to the Scottish one and English one. The only difference is just very little's actually been published here. Everything seems more focused on sending kids back to schools, which we all know is just fucking stupid. Stupid. So, he's just woken up. SK's just woken up. Well, you've woken up in time for Prime Minister's questions, so I'm hoping for something today, you know what I mean? So, now, why have I got this up here? I forgot why I've got this up here. I was wanting to make a point about something, and right, I think it's the sending. Got to be doing the laundry. Well, as long as you got PMQs on in the background, that's all that matters. That is all that matters. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to have a quick chat about sending kids back to school, right? Because if we look at what their governments are saying in Scotland and England, the main focus of the roadmaps, as they call it, is to send kids back to school, and everything seems about sending kids back to school. This seems to be the way that they think they're going to get everything sorted in the world, by sending kids back to school. Now, the reason they want to get kids back to school is because if kids are back at school, then they can crack the whip on the adults and they work harder. This is how the rich get richer. You've got to remember that politicians are all funded by the super rich. And currently, the super rich are not making as much money as they usually make. And they are greedy bastards. So the only way they can make more money and continue to make more money and continue to profit off the heads of the poor is to get the kids back to school so that adults can all get back to work and the slave masters can crack those whips, get the people working, making money for the super rich. It's how the system works. Love it or hate it, it is how it works. So I wanted to talk very quickly at the end of this about the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 in schools. One of the most... Now, this document we've got on screen here, this is from the WHO. So, as they say here, one of the most concerning questions has been the extent to which COVID-19 spreads in schools. Exactly. This is a question many of us have. So, I wanted to quickly drill into this before we go on to anything else. So, there were a few outbreaks reported in schools. Since early 2020. There's been quite a few outbreaks in schools, so I don't know. I'm not actually sure when the WHO posted this or how much we can take from this. How much is political, you know what I mean? I don't know the political background of the WHO. But let's have a look. Studies were limited during school closures and other stay-at-home measures. We were learning more as the schools reopened, so that's fair enough. In most infections or COVID-19 cases reported in children, infection was acquired at home. That's fair enough, but again, that's one of those questions that's hard to answer, because how do you know where the infection was acquired? You don't. More outbreaks were reported in secondary high schools than in primary elementary schools. Now, this is something I have always said. This stands to reason that it would be this situation, that it would be like this, right? The virus doesn't understand. It doesn't know, it can't count, It doesn't know what a 1 or a 5 is, or a 1 or a 10, or a 5 or a 10 is. It just knows that it can infect some people. Some people have that gap in their immune system which it can get. Now, it just turns out that in most people, the gap develops when you become an adult. How it happens, I don't know. Ask a virologist. They can maybe tell you. But this this matches this, because the virus doesn't know age, and we all age differently. We all age at different speeds. Kids all develop at different rates. So it stands to reason that more outbreaks are going to be reported in secondary high school kids, because some of them will be adults in the development sense, and some of them won't. The study suggests that children under 10 years of old are less susceptible and less infectious than older ones. Well, that's fair enough. This has been proven. Although, it needs to be remembered that kids under 10, or even kids just over 10, can get really ill. I know someone that had a child that was in hospital. I think he was around 10-year-old as well. It does happen. In school outbreaks, the WHO said, it was more likely that the virus was introduced by an adult personnel. Transmission staff to staff is most common amongst staff and students. Amongst staff and students was less common, and student to student spread more rare. Now, again, I don't know how you're going to know that. That's more of a rhetorical point. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how you're going to know that. Transmission to staff seems what this sentence here means, right? Transmission to staff was most common. So that means that transmission between adult and adult is the most common form of spread in schools, but it says most common. Most common means it happens in other ways. That means it does spread from staff to students. Now, among staff to students was less common. Less common, but does happen. Now, you've got to remember that 49% is less common than 51%. We are not being told how less or more common this is. What we are being told here is that outbreaks happen in schools. They maybe don't happen as much as people think, but they can happen. This is, like, what they describe here is the potential for super spreader events. If a kid or an adult comes into the school with it, they can pass it to the teachers. It can get passed from teachers to kids. The kids can take it home and spread it to adults. The WHO completed this page by saying early modelling suggests that closing schools reduced community transmission less than other social distancing interventions. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Social distancing is always going to be the best thing. Like, social distancing is always going to be the best way to stop this spread. So now it's also based on early modelling, so we've got to remember that. But I mean, that stands to reason. That is like one of those things where, to back up their point, they will put something in. They'll say, "Look, this happened," but like that would have always happened. It would have always shown that closing schools will reduce community spread more than social distancing, because people being together at school is just in school. But if you stop social distancing, that stops people getting near each other at shops, everywhere. So it just stands to reason that would be the case. So now, this is the last bit I'm going to read from here. What we know about children and COVID-19. COVID-19 is reported much less frequency in children than in adults. Children and adolescents represent 8% of reported cases and 29% of the cases in the global population. Mild and asymptomatic infections are more common and may be underreported. So, kids are more likely to be... It is more common for kids to be asymptomatic with COVID-19. It can happen. And that means there's more chance for kids to be asymptomatic asymptomatic, take it into a school, spread it that way. Okay, now, the last little point I wanted to make, this one here, right? So, it says that COVID-19 is much less frequent in children than it is in adults, right? And that 29% of the global population are, like, kids and adults represent 8% of reported cases and 29% of the global population. But I mean, I looked at the global population earlier because I'm a geek like that. And like, as of like the middle of last year, as it says here in Statista, it's like about 20% of the 66% of the world's population were kids. So I mean, if they've got 29% of kids is getting that, I don't know. I think I'm just getting carried away with stuff here. My point here is that even within the documentation from the WHO on how safe schools are, it is fucking apparent that schools are not that safe. Like, they are a place where COVID-19 can spread and get out of control and spread to more people and spread out. This is why I think that the roadmap that the UK government, specifically the UK government, are taking is terrible. I think this can only lead to more people getting the virus. I'm gonna, like, if I could put money on something as morbid as this, I would bet 50 quid that by June, the start of June, say the first week of June, restrictions are being put back in place to stop the virus spreading. Whether that is a resummation of the fucking absurdly broken tier system or something else, I don't know. I expect it to happen. You can put money on it, or you can just come back here in the start of June and say, Steve, you were right, or Steve, you're an idiot, you were wrong. So, I'm going to end potpourri here for the day. In 15 minutes' time, I will be June is quite optimistic. June is... Hoppy, it's good to see you in the chat. It's always good to see you in the chat, my man. I don't think we're going to get out restrictions in this year. I could totally see us being restricted in some way, shape, or form until past the next Christmas, New Year. I have got that little faith in these things working or happening. As it stands with the UK government, right, they fucked this up twice. The same people that are doing it again have fucked this up twice already, and they're just doing it in the same sort of way. The man that is in charge of everything has fucked things up more than any other politician on the face of the earth. Matt Hancock, our health minister, has broke the law by giving contracts to his mates when he should have been fixing this. Other people are not doing stuff. Gavin Williamson, like, fucked up about 1 million times and still in the job. It's ridiculous. Like, I cannot see how anyone in the mainstream media can have any faith that what this government is going to do, specifically in England, is going to work. Like, it's Scotland as well. Scotland to an extent, right? Nicola Sturgeon, I don't think she's done that much more than Boris. For the most, she's done what Boris has done, but with a different word into it. But what she's did is she's been accountable. And that speaks volumes, you know? If they've made a mistake, they've admitted it. People have actually stepped down in the Scots government because they've made mistakes over COVID-19. You look at the UK government, the people that have made mistakes over and over again, mistakes that have led to hundreds of thousands, like over 100,000 people dying, are still in that jobs. That is sickening, and that is why I do not trust that these roadmaps are going to work. The Scottish one has a chance. The English roadmap, though, sorry, England, you guys are screwed. You do not expect a summer holiday, and if you do get a summer holiday, then expect it to be put in place with politicians knowing you're probably going to get ill from what happens. That ends today's potpourri. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip to the intro screen for the next 10 minutes, because I'm going to go get a bathroom break, have a drink, and I'm going to prepare for Prime Minister's questions. So what I'll do is I will be back live at... No, actually, I'm just going to go dark for 3 minutes, and then we'll be back for House of Commons. Let's have a quick look at the House of Commons. Is it set up yet? Is anyone there? Oh, the stream is live, so we can get a feed. So what I'll do is, actually, what I will do is, now we're on this, I will... Can I mute myself?